Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to CGA's Wednesday webinar series and Thursday Virtual Roundtables. Today is our fifth TVR, the Measurement and Regulation Roundtable. I'm David McConkey, Director, Operations, Safety and Security for the Canadian Gas Association. Over the next few weeks, running until December of this year, we will be having a series of webinars, our WWSs, and virtual roundtables, TVRs, covering operations, engineering, plant integrity, construction, and measurement and regulation. We really appreciate you taking the time and making the effort to participate today. We'll start off our roundtable today with a word from our sponsor. So thank you very much to Romet and the team. We appreciate very, very much your support. So I'd like to begin reviewing the logistics for this webinar. For sessions such as these, we recommend the use of headphones or earbuds for the best possible sound quality. The event organizer, Can Events, will have everyone but the presenters muted by default. We're using GoToWebinar for these sessions, so please take this opportunity to check out the GoToWebinar panel accessible via the small orange arrow. Each of you are logged in as a participant, which allows you to raise your hand in order to participate in the discussion, and we will make use of this feature today. For those who submitted questions, we may invite you to ask your question or elaborate on it during the meeting. You may also type questions using the question feature, but we'd love to hear your voice. If you're having connectivity issues, we recommend that you leave the webinar entirely and come right back on in using the same link that you used originally. This should repair the connection. You may use the chat feature to speak with our team to help resolve any technical difficulties. And so we encourage you to keep that chat panel visible during the session. The agenda and format for the session today is as follows. The overall format is very interactive, so we hope you will feel comfortable to speak up and engage in the discussion. Over the course of the next 2 hours, we strongly encourage you to engage with your industry peers and openly discuss what's important to you. The process for asking questions, so take note of this, will be as follows. You'll use the raise the hand feature. We will unmute you. And you may also need to unmute yourselves on your end, a kind of double muting. So just take note of that. We may also send an unmute request to you, so look out for that. And at that point, you'll be able to speak. The session is split into 2 hours with a short break in the middle, and our event chair and committee chair have prepared a great session for you today, and I'm very much looking forward to this TVR. We'll start off with a reminder of our obligation to adhere to the Anti-Competition Act. So as always, we begin our meetings, we'd like to remind you of this obligation, and this boils down to avoiding discussions or comments that may influence competition in Canada. This could include referencing overly positively or negatively particular vendors, and we thank you for adhering to this. So now it's my pleasure to introduce you to our roundtable chair and our committee support. So our chair is Bill Cameron, who's the Director of Sales for Canada at Romet Limited. Bill has been involved in the Canadian natural gas industry for more than 43 years. Bill started his gas industry career in Eastern Canada in 1977, when he joined the Irving Group of companies working in various technical support and management roles at Moncton Utility Gas and Irving Propane. In 1998, Bill joined what is now Census and served for 15 years as Director of Sales Canada and the Pacific Western USA for the gas, water, and electricity products divisions. From 2011 to 2013, Bill served as Director of Sales, GE Oil and Gas, Dresser Natural Gas Solutions. After a short retirement, We got Bill back. Bill then rejoined the natural gas industry in 2017 as part of the leadership team at Romet Limited and presently serves as the Director of Sales for Canada. And we have Pat Hardock, who is going to be our committee support today, who is the Measurement and Regulatory Specialist for Gas and Liquid Flow with PJ Hardock and Associates Incorporated. Pat is an engineer with 35 years of experience in hydrocarbon flow measurement and regulatory compliance, government approvals, and the design, evaluation, and construction of measurement test programs and facilities. Since his retirement, Pat has entered the measurement consulting world and for the last 3 years has acted as liaison with the CGA on measurement-related issues and has been a great asset for the CGA. He also keeps busy by acting as technical expert in the evaluation of flow laboratories for the National Research Council's Laboratory Accreditation Service. Prior to retiring in 2015, he worked as the senior engineer for natural gas measurement at Measurement Canada and was Canada's representative to the International Working Group on Fluid Flow. And with the logistics and introductions, I'm pleased to turn the floor over to Bill and Pat.
Good afternoon, everyone. First off, on behalf of Romet and our team here, I appreciate the opportunity to participate in the event today. The other thing that I was very pleased to hear is that Pat Hardock was going to be my co-pilot here today to keep me in line. My relationship with Pat goes back a number of years. Always enjoyed working with Pat when he was at Measurement Canada. So with that, good afternoon, Pat. And Pat will be participating, I'm sure, to a great degree in our discussions today. When David and the CGA team reached out to me asking if I would help on this webinar today, I did readily volunteer, and then I got catching up with Pat, and then we thought, well, geez, this means that we really got to get dressed up today, because normally around this time of the day, us seniors are in our pajamas at home working from our desk. So we did get our best attire on today. But
I even shaved.
And look at that, Pat even shaved. But getting back to business, we're looking forward to hosting the event this afternoon. David is very eloquently laid out the ground rules, and we're going to because of time, and we know that everybody is taking time from their busy day to join on. We're gonna get right into the roundtable, and we'll do our best to try and keep things moving along smoothly here. So Tyson, I guess I'm ready to move forward and start the PowerPoint. If you can just guide me as to which direction you want me to go at this point on the PowerPoint.
Move forward with it.
Okay. Can everybody see this right now?
Yep, it looks great.
Looks good.
We're good to go. Well, that's awesome. I've done my first thing right today by figuring out how to get the PowerPoint up and visible to everyone. So yeah, we'll start into it, and around the 2 o'clock mark here, I've got the timer on. We'll take a little bit of a break, and hopefully we'll have some robust discussion. I was quite pleased when I was looking at the attendee list. I'm not sure who is on right now, but I think I'm seeing upwards of 40 participants. We probably have many of our utility friends on. A number of vendors, a lot of friends in the vendor world are here, and of course the organizers. So everybody had submitted quite a number of questions, and so the first theme was around hydrogen. We kind of broken everything up into groups. So you're going to see 5 different themes today that we'll discuss, and to that there was questions sent in on each one. I have reached out in advance to some of the people that have posed these questions, asking if they would be comfortable in asking their question live. So for those of you that are on board today, we'll reach out to you to kind of start the discussion and have you pose the question, and hopefully have other people join in and participate. So we'll be talking about hydrogen, a huge topic today within our industry. Data storage and security as relates to gathering of data, transmission of data, and getting data into the end customer's hands. Regulator service and handling. I know that's another very interesting topic. I'm looking forward to hearing what our specialists in that side of the field are going to talk about today. Of course, everything we've been all very engaged and involved in trying to embrace the new world of COVID and meeting all of the obligations and responsibilities that come with us as an industry to address COVID, especially I know with our utility friends that are dispatching people into the field every day. It's probably quite a challenge. And then finally, we'll close out with some participation. I do believe today we'll have a few folks on from Measurement Canada, and I know there was a couple of questions posed. So with that, we'll get right into the questions. And the first question was posed by Anish Goswami, and I'm not sure if Anish is on. Tyson, can you see if Anish is with us?
He is.
He is, yes.
Oh,
Anish,
is it unmuted?
Yeah, could you would you be comfortable in asking your question to the audience? You posed an interesting question.
Anish, just make sure the mic icon is green and your audio will be connected. He may not be there at the moment.
Okay, if you can still hear me, Tyson, I'll ask the question on behalf of Anish, and then if he does get back on, he can wade into this. But his question was, how do we find an alternative for the present moment in the hydrogen arena with the available resources? And I guess we'll put that question out to everyone on board. If somebody wants to raise a hand and wade into their view, we'd appreciate it. Do you see anything coming in, Pat?
No, I don't. I was going to suggest that we hand this over to David at the CGA, because they're really involved in the development of a work group and a position on that. So he may be able to speak to this with some good background. Are you there, David?
Yeah, I can get the discussion flowing. It's certainly hydrogen is a hot topic. There's a lot of work going into it right now. Actually, I just had a call prior to this one on the topic. There's a lot of ground to cover on the broader topic. I'll just give a bit of background. There's the call that I was just on actually was related to CSA Z662 Clause 5 Materials Subcommittee has a hydrogen task force that's looking at implications to the industry from a materials perspective. A number of folks within the CGA community sit on the Clause 12 subcommittee as well, and that discussion is taking place. Hydrogen discussion is taking place there as well. We've had our kind of initial meeting with Measurement Canada to talk about hydrogen from the measurement perspective, and that discussion will be kind of continuing through GPAC, through the Gas Process Advisory Committee. So that's the industry, Measurement Canada joint group that looks at issues facing the industry. Natural Resources Canada is shortly coming out with a strategy, a federal strategy on hydrogen, and that is a little bit delayed, but we're expecting it any day at this stage. So just to give a brief overview on the topic, and that's not even to begin to scrape the surface in terms of what some of the utilities are doing, Enbridge, ATCO, I believe Energier and others as well. And I'll echo the invitation to Anish Goswami if you're interested in elaborating on the question. It's an interesting perspective to start off with. How do we find an alternative for the present moment in the hydrogen arena with the available resources? I think there's a few different interpretations that we can kind of make of the question. It'd be great to hear what the thought was behind that. But with that kind of brief overview of hydrogen from a CGA perspective, giving a sense of the things that we're involved in at this point, I'll invite others to speak up, and I'll pass it back over to Bill and Patrick. Thanks for the opportunity to comment.
Thanks, David. So is Anisha been able to get on to his speaker, Tyson?
He is currently unmuted, but he has not turned on his microphone, so I believe he is not there.
Okay.
He may have just stepped away for a moment.
Sure thing. Well, to keep the discussion going, I find the whole hydrogen, and I'll just on my view only, the whole hydrogen topic, keen interest. As David mentioned, I've been around the industry for a long time, and I can honestly say that it's probably one of the more interesting moments in my career path when I see what's happening now with the providers, the distributors, the utilities, looking at how they can blend hydrogen and renewables into the pipe, so to speak. And it's very interesting. I had an opportunity to look at a study that was commissioned and pulled out of Atlantic Canada. I'm from Atlantic Canada, so anything Atlantic Canada or Nova Scotia, New Brunswick in particular, I'm always very interested in what the folks are doing down there. And it seems that they're being extremely progressive in embracing hydrogen and looking at how they can introduce renewables into the pipe. But more so, the whole hydrogen study, if anybody does have a chance to look at it, it's full of a wealth of information on hydrogen, on the mechanics of hydrogen, what happens when hydrogen is introduced into the stream. And it was very interesting and exciting to see that in Canada, not only in Atlantic Canada, but right across Canada, the utilities embracing renewables and hydrogen much more than from what I see on a global view, where I know within our company, we have a big footprint, so we see what's happening worldwide. But Canada seems to be taking the lead. So that's exciting, and I thought I would just voice my comments. And I'd certainly be interested to hear if anybody is on here from the utility side, what their view is. And don't be shy.
Or I will start picking on you. We could pass it to Quentin Wood too to see if he's interested.
Yeah, that'd be good. Quentin, how's things with you out in Alberta today?
Pretty good. How are you, Bill?
Good to hear your voice. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
You're right in the thick of things up there with your friends of ATCO. I mean, they've been sharing a lot of what they've been doing with hydrogen on the newswire. From a vendor perspective, for us, I guess the most important thing is going back to a lot of our manufacturers, just with questions in terms of valves, regulators, a lot of the pressure regulation control products that we deal with, and see how they fit in terms of the hydrogen applications and how they'll work. So we're involved right now more on that level to see, okay, which different products and sizes adhere, so that we can compile all this information for the utilities so they have it to say, okay, if we were to move forward on this, what do we need to change in terms of internals, in terms of different factors for control valves and regulators. So yeah, right now we're working through that process, I guess, to just build more or less a spreadsheet or a group of materials that we can say that will adhere to these specifications. Okay. While you're there, Quentin, I'm going to kind of pick on you and maybe move you into the question that you posed here. I see that you have the question. I'll read your question out and then maybe you can elaborate. Feedback from the group regarding general emissions reductions mandate and federal provincial funding. So maybe you could take that, Quentin, if you don't mind, and expand on your question.
Yeah, this has kind of been a general theme here in the last few months for us. I'm just trying to nail down, obviously it's different between different utilities and pipelines groups in terms of what they're looking for in terms of emission reduction, and what the difference is, I guess, between upgrading older stations to adhere to this or replacement. And kind of see, I've had some feedback from different utilities, but not all of them. So yeah, if there's anyone on the line from different utilities, I guess just to see what exactly the thought process is moving forward on the environmental side of the emissions.
There may be some advantage. I don't know if anyone from Measurement Canada is comfortable, but certainly they could elaborate on the federal government's sort of goals to move forward on hydrogen and so on, and their green initiative. Is anybody interested in sharing some of that? We have Jeremy and Andrew from MC, if they're comfortable in speaking to that slightly.
Hi, Pat. It's Jeremy here.
Hi, Jeremy.
So this is a really new and interesting area for Measurement Canada as well, and we're early in the process. But we're very interested in working with industry as they work through the process, because it's a new understanding for us to understand how hydrogen impacts measurement, and we're very open to finding like we've got discussions from the top, and there's a lot of opportunity to find open in other ways to regulate measurement of hydrogen in either fueling or in transportation in pipelines. So I would say keep us in mind as you're looking at projects, because we would like to, as much as possible, partner on these. There are mechanisms we have in place that allow flexibility in how we regulate metering that allows us to get things working quickly. And I think there's a real opportunity here to get in early in a planning stage so that we can work together and find a way that a project can go forward. I would say rather than the traditional go through the entire design process, submit it for an application and go through testing that takes a significantly more amount of time. Keep us in mind early in the process.
Thank you, Jeremy.
To David and Jim, Tweety, if you're still listening, one thing, when we were going through the agenda the other day, that Pat and myself, actually, we probably spent 35, 40 minutes just talking about hydrogen, and one thing that we thought was at some point maybe having another roundtable webinar on hydrogen and renewables as it impacts the measurement and regulation industry, so that we could invite in some stakeholders and have another more robust dialogue on hydrogen. Food for thought. I think everybody that I deal with, especially if I'm talking to utilities, it does appear to be very much in the forefront and on everybody's mind. And as an industry, I know, and I am speaking on behalf of all the vendors, we'd certainly all welcome the opportunity to participate in that discussion should we have another webinar. So I'll leave that with you folks at CGA to consider if you've not already considered it.
Yeah, I'll just comment real brief, Bill, so we can move on. But noted. There's a number of those kind of sessions that are happening and will be happening. We've got some joint sessions with the American Gas Association, some of which have been touching on hydrogen. The CSA had a very interesting webinar a couple Fridays ago that was all about hydrogen. It was a workshop. It was a virtual workshop about 4 hours long. Okay. Lots of different stakeholders involved in that. And noted. I think there's an opportunity to kind of push some of this out to the CGA membership a bit more broadly. So I'll take that as a takeaway. Thank you.
Great. Okay, we're gonna be moving forward here. So the next theme was around data storage and security, and the first question is posed by Ron Strong. I'm hoping that Ron's on board. Ron's a product director down at Dresser. So Ron, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Good to hear your voice, Ron. It's been a while, and glad to see you're still participating and supporting the industry. You had a question?
Yeah, I do. And Bill, thank you for inviting me to speak on this. I appreciate it, and good to see you again. And Pat, same for you. Haven't talked to you for a while, and glad to see you're doing well.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting times for us right now. We're really starting to see some advancements. We all know that the metering and the measurement side doesn't necessarily move extremely quick, but we're starting to see a pretty rapid shift as we look at new communication capabilities and such. And the question really becomes, what are the utilities looking at as they look at AMI versus AMR and the cloud-based technology, and where do they see themselves going over the next few years? What are they looking for? What type of information is being sought, and how do they think they would use this to their benefit? And I think that's something that all the suppliers would like to know, because it's wide open. and we'd like to hear from the utilities on that.
So Pat, you probably have the attendee list there and see who's on here from the utilities.
Yes,
And
I'm going down.
I know you're great on picking on people, so.
I'm not going to say where I learned that skill, but okay. We have Catherine from Fortis online. She may be willing to speak about it. Hello, Catherine, are you there?
Let's see how I figure this out.
Sounds like you're there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Catherine. Hello.
Sorry, I have to apologize. I walked away from my computer, and so I was not listening to the last part of that conversation. So
We were wondering how the weather
to...
was. We were wondering how the weather was in Penticton.
Fabulous, fabulous. Well, yeah, can't complain. It's been really nice here. So I apologize for not. You might want to pick on someone else and come back to me and repeat the question.
Hey, Catherine, it's Ron Strong. Real quick, the question was basically, how are the utilities looking at moving away from AMR to AMI? Are they looking at moving away, and how they would use that information, and what do they see the benefit of? How are they going to derive benefit from going to like a cloud-based service and having more data in their hands? And didn't know if you had any information that you could share from the perspective of Fortis.
We do have a team that's working on the AMI project, and I think Kevin Harms, who you probably know, our measurement manager, has been involved with the AMI AMR project in evaluating what would fit the Fortis framework. There's not a lot that we can actually provide out there right now. I have not been part of that committee, so I don't know where they're at with the details of where they want to go with that, but it's something that they've been looking at for a long time, and it would be a big project. Our meter fleet is over 1 million meters, so it's something that has a lot of moving parts to it, and definitely they see some benefits in that, and it also presents some challenges as well that they obviously want to review and see where they can move forward with it, if that's what the next steps are. I don't know if that really answers it, but I'm sure Kevin can probably elaborate a little bit more if somebody needs some more details specifically.
Okay, Catherine, thanks for that. We didn't mean to put you on the spot. We kind of caught you off guard.
No worries. Yeah.
And
a little bit on the spot.
Sure I did.
It never hurts.
That's Pat Hardick. He just does these types of things.
That's all right. That's okay.
I noticed that Scott Boudreau has his hand up.
Yeah, hi there. Scott Boudreau with Heritage Gas. Actually deal with Bill quite often, so hello, Bill.
Hey, Scott.
So I'm just sort of share Heritage Gas's sort of perspective. So Ron, I guess to your question, I mean, I think it depends, where companies are at with their current technology and deployment. And, for Heritage, being a small utility, it was still a large undertaking back in 2016, 2017 when we deployed AMR. So for us, I mean, our system is relatively, essentially brand new. So, to be able to jump over to an AMI system or to really justify, the spend is becoming difficult around the technology that's changing so quickly. So, although a lot of great benefits to AMI, I mean, if you were deploying it today or investigating it, I think it makes sense that you would go the AMI route. But for, again, if you had just sort of spent the capital to sort of deploy that to all of your customers, it would be very difficult to justify jumping over to, you know, the AMI system. And again, that's just my sort of perspective, but I know there's been a lot of rapid changes with technology and data collection, so it's almost hard to keep up with it. And if you're going to go to a system, you want to know that it's good for a number of years.
Sure, that's a very valid and pragmatic view of it.
Ron, do you know if Jeff, your coworker, I see Jeff Martin, technology leader from your company, is also posed a question?
He's had to be out of the office for a couple of weeks, and I don't know if he's been able to join back in on this meeting or not. Do you see him on the list? He would be attending remotely. Well, we all are. But...
I don't see him.
Okay. Well, it still kind of ties to the same theme because we kind of think along the same paths, which is good since we're in the same company, right? So his thing, as he looks at the technology situation, one of the things that comes into play is cybersecurity. Now you're putting stuff into the cloud, and how are things going to change on the security side? How are we going to ensure that if we are throwing things into the cloud, that it's only the utilities grabbing that information back into their system? And was kind of curious as to how the utilities would approach that situation. And for that matter, it could be the AMR or AMI provider.
And again, Pat, I'm not sure how many utility attendees we have on here. It kind of sounds like, and I don't see the list, it may be a situation where we do not have any of the key stakeholders from the utilities that would have subject matter expertise on what they are doing and how they are looking at this. So we may not get much clarity today from a utility view.
Well, unfortunately, too, there are some individual names here who I do not recognize just from my limited experience.
Yeah, certainly anybody that's on, please, we would appreciate any views you had to step into the dialogue.
Is there anyone from Enbridge or ATCO that might be able to help us out? Ron Sterling, perhaps?
I think, Pat, and unfortunately, Ron, we're probably not going to get a lot of dialogue on this, and we apologize on behalf of that, but I think we'll move on, if that's okay with you, Ron.
That's fine. You know, if you don't have the right people here to answer questions, it's kind of the right time to move on.
Yeah, but good questions poised. You know,
I have just a question myself related to this. When you speak of moving things to the cloud, you're speaking of data, or are you speaking of having calculations done in the cloud?
You know, honestly, I think you can look at it from both sides, because there's a situation where you can do local things and send it up through the cloud, or there's the ability to take a multitude of things and use the cloud to do the calculation for you. I know Itron is looking at that from, as they call it, an app type situation, where they would use it and have data available, and the app that they would develop, and I'm assuming that's more, I'm speaking a little bit for Itron here, so this is stuff that they've shared through like their user conference and such. They would use what they would call an app, which basically I would assume is just a program specific to a customer or such, to combine the data and put it out in the format that's useful to them.
And this kind of app, would that sit with the customer or would that sit with the utility? I mean, people are always talking about fast and easy data, so.
Well, you know, I can't speak to that. I don't have enough knowledge on it. Again, I'm just speaking of some general information that I know Itron has shared at like different conferences and such. But that is a big question in and of itself, what you just said right there, because is there even room for another service? You know, think of an Amazon cloud service where all of a sudden the utilities are Amazon's customer where they're using their cloud service to do things for them. I don't know the answer to that. And I think there's a lot of different ways that you could go at this day and age.
So we mark that as something under development then.
Yeah, I'm curious as to who's doing what, because I'm going to be honest with you, we are not the we're not the carrier of information, and we don't know exactly the mindset of how much information the utilities want, and it's just a curiosity question, because I'm sure it's going to start coming up more and more as people start thinking about what their futures are with new information available to them.
So a very interesting topic, which I'm sure will come up soon. So that'll be another one to put on the future discussion list, and hopefully, you know, going into next year, we have another roundtable. Maybe we'll get more participants that can wade in.
Yeah, I think it'd be a very good discussion at actually one of the CGA events when hopefully soon we can get back together.
Yeah. Okay, Ron, we're going to move ahead to the next.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you bringing me into the discussion, Bill.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it, and it's great to hear from you. Talk to you again there, Ron. So the next part that we're going to, the next theme is on regulation, on regulator servicing, handling, pressure control. We got 5 questions here. I'm not sure who's on board. First one is Jane Blizner. I hope I pronounced that right. Jane, are you with us? Do you see her out there, Pat?
No, I do not see her out there.
Jane, your audio is on.
I'm trying here.
We got you.
You're good.
I just heard you.
Oh.
Hey, Jane.
Hey.
Aha. You've just been put onto the soapbox, so to speak. So you poised a. You there, Pat?
Yeah, sorry. Founder, obviously.
Awesome. Jane, would you mind speaking to your question, asking your question, and maybe we can get some dialogue going here to help create an answer for you.
Yeah, basically it's just about trying to standardize meter sets to keep the number of designs down while still maintaining, you know, accurate measurement for, you know, load variations, you know, you might have at different customer types and that sort of thing. Just like I said, just trying to not design, you know, a meter set custom every time for every customer, and just trying to have more or like just have standard designs that can be applied to all of them, or to more customers, I guess.
Yeah, a good question, Jane. And I strongly suspect, I've got a good dose of suspicion there may be on our attendee list some subject matter experts. So I'm hoping that they will join in with their views. Okay, Pat, we got to start picking on people.
Guess it helps if I turn the mic on. Regulator people, where are you? I had a flag from Boris Benner. That's why you don't hire me to do this kind of work. Bessner. I don't know if he would like to
Yes,
pipe
Boris
up. He had
Bessner.
Yeah, and I do apologize.
No problem.
In advance to everyone who I slaughter their names.
So Boris, you had some thoughts?
It was just regarding the previous questions we just did. A bit late to the game there, but just regarding the data play and everything surrounding big data. I was wondering how utilities consider smart thermostats in the equations. I know we've talked about meters in that particular questions, but yeah, we do see smart thermostat as a big provider of that kind of data to help utilities, and it's pretty easy to implement.
If we don't get anybody, Pat, responding to Boris's question, maybe I'll wade in a little bit from my experience. As David said on the opener, I had an opportunity at one point in time to participate in not only the gas industry, but I was pretty heavily involved over on the electric side and then on the water side. Both of those industries adopted so-called smart, intelligent devices earlier than the gas industry. So I think what's happening now is that we are catching up in our industry, and that the word smart is being adopted, as is intelligent devices. And you know, the industry as a whole is looking at some of the things that are happening over on the particularly on the electric side. And in a lot of cases, many of the gas utilities are owned by, and even here in Canada, may be owned or co-owned by a hydro or a electric utility. So I think to answer your question is that everything you see at your home today that's happening on the electric side, right down to time of use, will happen on the gas side. So, you know, we see smart thermostats, we see smart metering, intelligent, you know, gate stations, regulator sets. There's a transition happening, and that's what's exciting about our industry. I often joke, I wish I was 20 or 30 years younger, like some of you that are on here, because I think that this industry is going to get pretty exciting real quick, where for years, it was exciting, but we weren't adapting to technology like other industries were. So
yeah,
there's a lot to come, and soon.
Yeah, Energer just started something this week with smart homes. Very interested. All right, so thanks for the reply.
Getting back to the standard meter sets, John Anderson, are you on today? You see John there, Pat?
Yes, I do.
I'm here.
Hey, John, guess what? It was your next, you were on the next in the list of the person next to pick on, and now we're going to start picking on you. What do you?
That's fine.
Yeah, you're in the world of, you know, right there in the meter set world with the regulation side of the business, and I'm sure you feel some of the pain of some of these, especially the junior engineers at the utilities, when it comes to trying to figure this all out. And how do you get a standard meter set?
Standard, yeah. It's the ones I'd say the most consistent thing about the gas industry is the inconsistency. So everybody does things totally different. So how to get there is sometimes really difficult. And matter of fact, I was on another webinar. We got a B109 committee meeting. That's the ANSI committee for through the AGA, and that committee does meter and regulator standards. So we're working on updating the .109.4, which is the service regulator standard, similar to CSA 6.18. And that standard has gone up to 2-pound delivery now for PFM type sets. And now we're adding in slam shuts and a few other details. So that's the closest thing we have to standards in North America.
Yeah, John, to what you're talking about, I'm just looking ahead here to the next question, and I'm not sure if Rob Sterling is on. Pat, do you see Rob out there?
Yeah, he's on.
Yeah, if so, Rob, I'd like to, if we can, have Rob join in, because that kind of leads into the next question that was posed about feasibility of developing standards similar to 6.18. And maybe, John, if you want to stick around, we'll get Rob in and see if we can open up some dialogue.
Certainly. Rob, are you there?
I'm here, John.
Hey, Rob, long time to talk.
Yeah, I was thinking, hearing that you were on, and you're the right person to answer this question. I guess just to kind of touch on a little bit the previous one about standard meter set designs. So I'll say I was previously in the station engineering group at Enbridge, so I certainly have some background in it, and that we did work towards developing a lot of standards, and that is how we approach installing meter sets. I mean, you try to find the best options, and for us, really the way we looked at it was on the smaller customer services, so household, small commercial. It's easier to have a standard. There's becomes a certain threshold, and that for every company is a little different, but you have to move to more of a custom design. There's just, it's hard to get the right, measurement accuracy and regulation capabilities to just hold your outlet pressures where they need to be if you are too focused on standardization.
Right, I could see your point too, and geography, will play a factor in that too. Temperatures, snow, and some of the, saltwater environment and so on. So I see that you had a question about developing a standard similar to CSA 6.18 for the larger regulators. Are you talking commercial service regulators?
Yeah, that's really looking at commercial service regulators, and I guess just to kind of add some context to it, when we look at Z662 and ensuring compliance with the requirements, I mean, regulators are not identified as I'll say an item like pipe is and fittings, those types of things. They're not listed there. So really to be in compliance, you do have to do an engineering assessment to validate their use. I mean, I know all of us are using these devices, and some companies may be more advanced in terms of having that engineering assessment completed, but certainly I'll say an alternative option might be having a standard for those larger regulators that is recognized in Z662, and what would kind of remove that requirement for the engineering assessment for a non-listed item in code.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny you say that. Right now, there's a parallel meeting with our B109 committee, and they want to form what's called the B109.5 task group to actually do exactly what you're asking for, is to put together a standard for the larger commercial service regulators. The challenge is what that you put down there is there's a lot of different pieces and puzzles that go together. And for example, internal relief valve sizing would be, we use different methodology in the residential service than we do in the commercial service for determining what constitutes a failure. And we discussed this years ago at the NCB 109 committee, should we try to morph the larger regulators into the residential service regulator standard? And we said no. And so now they're talking about, let's get this task force going. We can use .4 for a template to make .5, which would be your commercial service type regulators. So if anyone's interested in being on that committee, you don't have to be a member of the AGA for the, in terms of getting on the task force. In terms of development, just send me an email and I can put you on the list.
Great. One thing I'm seeing here is that our normal measurement school that we have every year certainly does allow the opportunity for us to all get together as a big family in this industry and spend a lot of time on these types of subjects. And to that, I know I personally miss those. Unfortunately, these webinars, although they're great and it gets us all back talking, we're kind of lacking on time. And I do apologize if we I know some of these subjects I'd love to see everybody wade into them and spend a lot of time. And I know when regulation, as I said earlier, it's a big one, and it can get quite technical, and the conversations can get robust. But with that, what I'd like to offer up, since we're not at a measurement school in a nice hotel somewhere, that we're going to keep moving through the agenda. And Rob and I appreciate you wading into this with your question, and Jane earlier, and John, your participation. But I think I will move along. I got a few more questions here that I'd like to see us get through before we take a break. We were scheduled for 2 and we're coming up to that. So I'm hoping that we could hang on for a few more minutes, and we'll hear if Rob's on. I'm gonna ask it. Maybe he could ask his question, or somebody from AFL/KTI can ask that on behalf of Rob, and then we'll move into Leanne and then Tony. So Rob, are you out there today?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Rob.
Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, good that you could join us. It's been a while.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like it's been a good conversation, and in the sake of time, I can quickly say that my question was something that if maybe we're in person, be nice to hear a couple of utilities chime in on if there is a limitation from a manufacturer rep standpoint. We're always trying to be innovative and stay in line with local health and safety considerations. And just looking back, not even 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, it didn't seem to be too much of a concern. And then we've had some of our utility customers start to comment on the limitations as to how safely one person can work on a regulator. So yeah, I was going to float that out, but not sure if anyone here is able to quickly comment on that.
Maybe, hey, Scott Boudreau, if you're still here, we'll pick on you. Is there any covenants or any specific policies with your team over there on the weight that you're allowing your guys, or you're recommending to your guys that they do not lift?
I don't know. I'm not sure if Boris is on here or not. We typically, for us, there's a few different, we don't identify it so much as a weight, although it's driven by weight. We look at it more around the certain piece of equipment where we don't allow one technician to handle it. So we just don't, we don't have a policy that says, you will not live more than 70 pounds or whatever. We put it more that, we've got a few pieces. A great example is an AL 1000. So we require for a large diaphragm like that meter, we require 2 technicians to install it. For a large rotary set, we require 2 technicians to install it. It's driven by weight, but it's a little more, take some of the guesswork out of it, I guess. So we sort of have it more practical, I guess, from the operations end to just identify the tasks that you can't do by yourself. But again, it is driven by the weight. I don't know what a nail 1000 weighs, but I don't know if it's 65 pounds or in around there. I'm sure there's a few people on here that know the exact weight, but you know, that to me is a bit difficult to hold up and to you know, to actually get installed and thread the spuds and stuff. So that's sort of the way we operate. I'd be definitely interested to hear if any other utilities are on here that can talk to their, I guess, their standards or what they have in place.
You referenced Michael. He is on.
Yeah, he's just not a. He's not a. He doesn't like to talk as much as I do. So.
Geez, that's not the Michael. That's not the Michael I know. We'll let Michael off the hook today.
Yeah.
But Rob, and if you don't mind, I'll kind of, my thoughts is that I think any utility, you know, as we all know, the utilities are very extremely super sensitive when it comes to safety. And I've always thought that as a vendor, anything that we can bring to the table that will enhance their safety programs and protect their employees from injury, they'd be more than welcome to listen. So I've always found, Rob, that and I know you also in your many years of now designing sets, that you recognize that that the utilities embrace anything and everything as far as providing a better solution to having to have a guy out there struggling and wrestling with a big regulator set or, you know, a large meter of some sort. So I guess my thoughts is anything that we as suppliers to the industry can bring to the utilities, or the pipelines, the utilities, they'll look at it.
Very well said, Bill. I appreciate the feedback from everyone, and certainly, you know, in speaking with our manufacturers, we'll continue to do so and recognize the advantages of trying to keep things light and for safety reasons. So, thanks a lot.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Rob. Leanne, are you with us today?
I don't see her on the attendees list right now.
Okay. Well, she had a question, interested to learn more about practices and philosophies with respect to service regulator replacement. Again, I see that as although I'm not a big regulation or pressure control expert, I would suggest that one could be a very robust conversation also. But if anybody is wanting to speak to that, it kind of, in a way, falls back on what Rob was asking about practices. But if anybody has any thoughts, the floor is open. Pat, do you see anybody raising their hand? If not, we'll
no, there seems to be fairly. Oh, Scott has something to say.
Yeah,
from Heritage Gas.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really, it's just to add to that. We've been discussing that here sort of intently the last year, 2 years, I guess. Michael and I, Michael Boris, who no one has heard yet. But yeah, Michael and I've talked about it. You know, it's around, you know, for meters, everything's got seals. It's straightforward, but when it comes to regulators, you know, things are out in service for a long time. You know, is there some point where you start to be proactive and start to say, okay, I've hit 20 years on this, you know, on this type of regulator. Should we start to swap them out and plan for that maintenance and budget for it? Or you know, how do you really judge that? You know, or do you go by failure rate and you start to just run with your own numbers on failure rates and try to look at it that way? So I'm definitely curious. I don't really have anything to add beyond that, except that it's something that we're actively looking into.
You see any hands raising, Pat?
No, but pardon me, I did notice that Glenn Jones from Sask Energy is on the line. So maybe he would like to elaborate on the last couple of questions.
I might be able to. Can you hear me?
We can.
Quite well.
All right. I see Leanne Stetner from Sask Energy is also possibly here, so I will certainly invite her to speak to this, since I don't have a vast amount of experience, but from my time in the company, I do know that we've had some reviews of the service life of regulators, and when it comes to stations, we generally follow what's required in Z662, which is a minimum 18-month maintenance cycle. For service regulators, I think we've been relying mostly on vendor recommendations and our own experience. And I would say the experience part can be related to gas quality. I would suggest that if you're dealing with very pipeline quality gas, you're probably going to see less issues than if you've got some contaminants. So I think I'll stop there, and maybe Leanne's got something to add.
Yeah, I don't see Leanne on the attendees list today. That's why I was picking on you, Glenn. But
oh, okay. That's fine. I'll talk to her later.
Yeah, no, but thanks for participating on that discussion. Again, it's probably we'd have a whole afternoon just on these topics right here on pressure control and regulators themselves. But Tony, are you with us today from Saskatoon?
He is not with us today.
He is not.
Nope.
Okay. So his question was, what are utilities doing to leverage new technology to manage Measurement Canada pressure factor metering, information badging, marking, and registration requirements? It sounds as like a pretty fully loaded question there that Tony has put up. Anybody care to contribute?
we have a fella from Measurement Canada who is I'm just looking for him. Maybe he'll pipe up before. Who is a program officer, I believe. Oh, maybe not.
Okay, Pat. Well, I think unfortunately without Tony, go ahead.
No, we're good. I'm not tracking down who I thought I would, so we're all good.
We're all good. Yeah, unfortunately, Tony's not here to emphasize on the question. So I think what we'll do at this time, we're running a little over. We're going to take a little break. If we can reconvene, and be nice if everybody could be back in 5 minutes or so. If you need a bio break or need to run out for a beer or hamburger or something, and we'll be back. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Right now, I've got it 10 past 2 here in Eastern time, so we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep. Pat, are you back with me?
I think so. Pardon me.
How does it look like for our attendees back on board? I'm not sure. I think most of them have stayed with us.
We have 27 that are shown, but quite a number are showing the symbol for not paying attention.
Oh. Well, that is not.
They're probably
not good.
doing emails and stuff like that. So
sure. No, and I understand. We're all very, very busy.
Indeed.
But let me see here. We're 15 minutes past. So I think we'll roll right back into the questions, and then those that are not with us, they can catch up, because it looks like the next round of questions are dealing with COVID, and that could be it could take us a little bit of time. I think we have in total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions, and I'm not sure how many people are on board that pose those questions, but I know one is, and that would be from our team, Michael. Are you with us, Michael?
According to this, Michael is here, but not paying attention.
Wow, just hang on, I'll go get my bat.
Hey guys, I just unmuted. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay. Sorry, I just missed the past few minutes.
Interesting.
Michael, you're there?
Yes, I'm here now.
Aha. So we caught you. You weren't paying attention. I'll talk to you after. Yeah, Michael, you had a question on COVID, yeah. And we're back on the COVID theme. So if you don't mind, maybe you could pose your question.
Yeah, my question was just what effects do you think COVID-19 will have on the global natural gas industry, and what kind of steps the industry is going to take to help the economy recover, or what can we do as an industry to help the economy recover?
And I'm assuming, Michael, you're hoping somebody from a utility might step in.
Yeah.
To respond.
Or, even.
Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, yeah. Even from some of the suppliers in the group, kind of how new technologies might be able to help the industry move forward and help progress the economy in that sense as well. Kind of like a little kickstart.
Do we have any takers, Pat?
Well, we can pick on a couple. We can pick on Jamie Morrison, maybe from Mitron, if he's interested in speaking to that.
Hello, can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you, Jamie.
Yes, we can.
Great. Well, yeah, that's a good question, Michael. Pretty open-ended. I mean, there's a ton going on in the industry as far as a vendor standpoint. From our side, we've implemented, of course, all kinds of safety measures in all of our factories. For the most part, all of our folks are working from home offices, much like everyone else, I'm sure. It's been interesting. We've seen a bit of a downturn in usage of some products. Projects being delayed due to COVID, things like that. But we are starting to see a resurgence starting in 21. With some projects moving forward, even during the pandemic, looks like there's some ways that we're going to be able to get in the field and get some projects done safely. So it is interesting. I don't really have a whole lot more to add.
Fair enough. It might be interesting to hear from David McConkey also on that. Just as a general overview is from the CGA's perspective. Are you there, David?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm happy to give some thoughts. Certainly privileged to have an interesting perspective on the industry at the CGA. I'll start off just simply with indicating that the theme for our Operations Engineering Integrity Construction Conference coming up at the end of February is a gas-led recovery. And so, you know, goes right to the heart of the nature of the question there. And there's certainly a lot to be said, as Jamie noted. Our plan for that session, for that conference, is to start off with an armchair discussion with Tim Egan, the president CEO of CGA, along with two senior representatives from the industry. We're still securing them, so I'll leave you in suspense there. But you know, the idea will be to just kind of sit down and have that discussion. You know, other sectors are certainly, you know, thinking along the same lines. You know, let's take this, you know, build back better and all that kind of approach. You know, I think our industry is positioned really well to do this really concretely. I think in some of the other, you know, energy sectors, the idea, okay, this is our chance to get rid of oil and gas and just go ahead with the, you know, electrification and these different, you know, ideas. They're ideas, and at the end of the day, when the rubber hits the road, it's not as simple as you think. And our industry is certainly positioned to make a big difference. And I would say the hydrogen effort is probably a very significant component of that opportunity. I'll also throw out there, you know, we have the Natural Gas Innovation Fund, the NGIF, which is just growing in leaps and bounds. It's a funding entity that the CGA kind of spun off a few years back, and it's just, you know, kind of skyrocketing in the scope and reach. You know, it's beyond the distribution industry at this point, and reaches out to, you know, all components of the sector, you know, midstream, upstream. And the CGA is expanding it even further, this grant, you know, funding arm. So, you know, some interesting announcements coming out, I think, around that. But that entity exists to help support clean technology for the natural gas sector, you know, in a nutshell. And so again, there's huge opportunities to make some significant headway. So I mean, we could delve into specifics, but I would say, you know, there's a lot of opportunity, and as an industry, we're really well positioned to make some significant progress.
Yeah, I agree, David. This is Bill. I agree. I'm aware of the things that are happening behind the scenes with the CGA, and it's, you know, I applaud the direction that you guys are taking and pulling everybody together and creating and supporting things like the Innovation Fund. It couldn't be at a better time, as we're all trying to figure out this whole COVID thing and what we as an industry can do to support the new world and what we're going to be dealing with, I think, for some time to come. So good dialogue, good comments that you've made there on behalf of the CGA. So we appreciate that. And to continue on in the theme, I've noticed that the next three questions, which were posed by Michael over at Alta, I don't know if Michael's on board, and Rashad from Dresser, and Eric over at Itron. All three of those questions, I think we may be able to take in And if they're on board, pull in to engage in this next, these questions. They all have a common theme, I think. And it all kind of looks like they're interested and curious about the effects of COVID on, you know, statistical sampling, getting out there and managing things like steel, you know, your seal extensions during the pandemic. I know Eric has poised that. Rashad, it's what steps are being taken to ensure regulatory inspections, GIs are taking place. So maybe I can start out, Michael, but I would like if Rashad and Eric, if we can open the mics up to them, because I think we can get knock these three off, get some good discussion and get their views, and maybe other people if they want to weigh in on the topic of handling these types of things during the COVID pandemic. So Michael, Rashad, or Eric, are you there?
Hey, it's Mike.
Hey, Mike.
So for us, I was just curious more so where everyone's kind of at for utilities, because we finished our sampling, but we're still like 18% not completed for recalls, which is actually a fairly big number for us. And the weather's changed here, and it just slows us down now that, you know, we have to have customer interactions again for our recalls. So we're just curious more so where everyone else was and how they're dealing with their overdue meters.
I guess I could speak to that a little bit, since I don't seem to have any volunteers. As you're probably aware, the CGA and Measurement Canada sat down with a joint working group earlier, a month and a half ago, and has just recently completed the plan, which puts a framework in place to allow utilities, first of all, to modify their classic sampling plans by doing kind of repeat samples. And it also puts into place a vehicle they can use to get a dispensation. If they're not able to sample, or for whatever the reason may be, and they can apply to Measurement Canada for this dispensation. Part of the product they produced was a spreadsheet and some other information, sort of it's a cookbook, if you wish. And you fill in the cookbook and you submit it to your local specialist. I guess that's who would be handling it. Or it may be the local accreditation person. They haven't been specific on that yet, but I'm sure if I asked them directly, they'd let us know right away. And it'll be processed and then set up to be, in the end, the only person in Measurement Canada that has the authority to issue a dispensation is Diane, the president. Be assured so that process will be quick. So that's where we're at. So if you can't make your deadlines, you need to tell them why, and they're prepared to extend it to whatever period is really necessary to get it done. Because I think a theme came out of that work group, and the understanding from MC simply was, well, if you can't do it, you can't do it. Tell us when you're going to get to it. Yeah, that almost rhymes. And that's really where we're at with that from an regulatory environmental point of view. And anybody from MC is online who wants to add to that, you're welcome to do so.
So it's Jeremy here. It's certainly not in this area, but I can certainly attest that there's been a fairly high level of willingness to cooperate within MC, and will continue to be. So I just wanted to add that.
Pat, it's Bill. This is just an observation, and certainly I don't want to cut into any utility people that want to respond to this, but this is more of an observation from the sideline, so to speak, as a vendor to the industry. You know, we realize how much this has impacted the utilities, but one observation that I have made is that in talking to a lot of the utilities, they adapted very quickly. And yes, a lot of them are behind. But from what I was anticipating from a vendor view that we would see from the industry on our side, for lack of orders or lack of throughput, and not just from our company, but from other vendors that I keep in contact with, it seems that the industry has done very well and are moving through their GIs, and you know, they're still visiting customers, putting all the safety protocols in place. So, you know, for those utility guys and gals that are on board, it was kind of neat to see how you embraced working around COVID, and that speaks volumes for the integrity of our industry and keeping your people safe, yet stepping up to make sure that the regulatory requirements was addressed as best as you could. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a kudo to the industry.
Yeah, I support that comment completely. They've done an amazing job of trying to deal with the the situation, all the complexities it brings, keeping their clients safe, keeping their staff safe, and trying to do the job at the same time, meeting their regulatory requirements. And many utilities are very close to completing their sampling and testing, just because they've managed to work it out the way they need to. And as you say, hats off to these guys. There's been a lot of energy spent and a lot of planning done.
Yeah.
And on the government side, I guess, hats off to them to responding so quickly to our needs to have the regulations temporarily modified, if that's the right word for it. I'm not sure what it is, so that we can continue doing things the way we should. So I think everybody's worked together really well, and I would like to suggest that that joint work group is should be considered a success story.
Yeah, and to that, and we'll move on here shortly, is that, you know, we, and I'm sure my U.S. colleagues will appreciate what I'm about to say, in that we've seen some train wrecks, so to speak, in the U.S. and some of the states. But here in Canada, as a family in the industry, things moved along smoothly, and I think we did a pretty good job and continue to do a good job embracing the new world of COVID. But with that, I wanted to move on to Chris. Are you with us? Christine, you had a question.
I didn't see him on today. No, I didn't see him. We have someone else from KTI, though, who may be able to
I know Rob was on there.
cover for him. Do we see a hand from KTI?
Brad Marchand typically is readily available. He's on holiday this week, so yeah. I'm not sure who else.
Hey, Quentin or Rob or Quentin, they both work for the same company, or I can ask the question to the utilities. I think I'll just go ahead just to move things along. I won't put you on the spot, but I think what Chris was alluding to, I mean, nobody's seen this coming. If you did, what would you have done differently? And as a result of it, you know, what steps are being taken should we have another pandemic? Will it be part of your utility disaster planning moving forward? So if anybody in the utility side cares to wade into that, we'd appreciate it.
We've got Oliver from Energere online. We have as I go up the list looking for.
Scott Boudreau.
There we go. Scott, are you interested in piping in on this?
Sure. So I guess like many utilities, you know, I guess if we knew it was coming, some of the things we struggled with initially that we said we wouldn't get caught with again was around PPE. So we struggled to get, you know, masks. I mean, we had, yeah, just a struggle around masks and, you know, even gloves. We were able to sort of scrape enough together, but I think going forward, we're going to make sure we sort of have some larger stockpiles on hand, and I think, you know, there's a lot of companies around Canada that are sort of, you know, ensuring that there is a lot of PPE available going forward, but you know, it's a supply and demand thing. So, you know, if things die down, then eventually the sale of PPE may die off. So you got to make sure you have enough sort of on hand for yourself. So that was the first thing. The other piece was really around technology, making sure you're set up to work remotely. We were fairly well set up. I think the whole company, and again, we're small, but the whole company on a Friday, I don't know if it was March 12th or 13th or whatever it was, we left on a Friday, and we were, by Monday morning, everybody was working remotely. So we were in pretty good shape. But we had a lot of things to figure out from working at home. So that was something I think that's resolved now, but it was around, even now we're actually working a couple of days a week in the office, and 3 days a week out of our homes. So we've had to duplicate everybody's equipment. I think that one will take care of itself, and that we're sort of set up that way now, but the PPE is a different one. So that was probably our big two things around planning. The other one is just the policies in place as to what you can actually undertake. We struggled, I remember, and I'm sure everybody here, it's fresh in their minds, in March and April, as things kept getting worse and worse as far as the outbreak of COVID. We had to continue to decrease what task we were doing. Now we've created a bunch of documentation around that, but it was a long few weeks trying to keep the operation running and trying to keep our employees safe, but also maintain our distribution system. So that's one of the, we would have had maybe a lot of that in place if you knew about, if we knew anything about a pandemic. So I think that's the three things they're fresh in my mind.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it's interesting what because of COVID, what we have been driven to do very quickly to protect our employees. And as an outcome of that, I have this view, and I think it's part of our leadership team's view, that a lot of the things that we put in place, increased wash stations, different protocols within our facility, that even if we find a vaccine, a lot of the things that we've implemented, we may continue to keep in place. In our case, we found that we had much less sick leave because of maybe the hygiene aspect of it, people being more cautious. We've had very little, or very few people out sick from other common flus. We've had literally no downtime, and everybody's healthy and safe. So I strongly suspect that even going forward, if things do improve, that a lot of the things that have been put in place for COVID will continue to be in place. So, and that could be a good thing. So I'm hoping that we've learned some lessons here that will continue forward within our industry. But to to what you were talking about, Scott, and I know Michael, I communicated with him. He did have a question about what's the balance. You know, you got a project out there, it needs to be completed. And I'm not sure if Michael's still on, but I'll continue with his question. He didn't know if he was going to be here or not. You know, you folks in the utility industry, you got a customer, project needs to be completed. What's the balance of employee and safety and customer contact, general public contact? I mean, where are you, how are you addressing those things? If anybody from the utility wants to chime in, we'd appreciate it. Or anybody from the industry in general.
This is how we could pick on John again if he's willing to keep talking.
Yeah, John's a big PPE guy, and I've heard him talk safety many, many times. So you're talking John Anderson?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You still with us, John?
Yep, I'm still here. Sorry, I just got off. I had two meetings going on once here, so I apologize for that. I had an AGA meeting with the ANSI meeting going on, so that just finished.
I thought you were checking the election results.
No, that's going to be 2 weeks from now, maybe, or longer. I just got to see how many more ballots I got to put in the mailbox, I guess. Just kidding.
Okay.
Anyways, could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, John, we were talking about a balance from what we've seen, you know, out in the work field between the industry. You know, we all have the end use customer that wants the ideal outcome of which is turn my gas on. I want it now. And especially on major projects, and the balance between completing a project and making sure your employees are safe from the general public or you know, being exposed to you know, a COVID pandemic, which is out there. So we thought you might, you know, I said to the group, you know, John's always been a big personal protective, you know, PPE guy and big on safety equipment. And you've spoke about that before. I've heard you talk a lot, especially the industry you're in, where you're out there and, you know, high pressure applications and that. So, you know, what have you seen? Are people pushing through on projects?
For a while there, everything stalled. But I would say you went through, when this thing hit, probably in March is when things started getting, I'd say, escalating. Probably by, I'd say in April or so, things started rolling. And so a lot of more PPE measures were put into place. For example, like at Emerson, all the factories around the world had to implement strict protocols. And so all the employees were tested coming into work. You know, temperature wise, you can't do a COVID rapid test because there wasn't one then. There wasn't a test at that time. But, you know, all the assembly lines were reconfigured, offices were reconfigured. A lot of the people were all sent home. So the home office came into play. And what the balance is trying to keep manufacturing alive and then have a lot of your support staff at home, because sometimes you need the support staff there with the manufacturing and, you know, assembly and that. So that took a while to get set up, but I think the protocols are all set up right now. And I see, from what I see, things are starting to come back. I wouldn't call it normal yet, but there is hints that, you know, people are going back to work, depending on where you are too. Like the Northeast side of the United States is a hot box right now compared to, I live in the Midwest. And depending on where you are and depending on who runs the state, you know, the protocols will be a little bit different. But generally, we've done corporate worldwide standards on PPE. So things are rolling now. I mean, the factories are up and running, and things are going fairly well. So it's going to be interesting to see what the threshold is in the future. You know, what constitutes lockdowns, and then the rerouting of employees, and you know, setting up home offices and that. But at least that's going to be an option in the future. Things can happen very quickly. I think that's really what you're after, is how to be safe and responsive all at the same time without shutting down the company or the business, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, John. And I was earlier saying that it's been, for me, pretty impressive to see how the industry in general has adapted to the COVID situation. And I know from engaging with the utilities, and I think, you know, Michael's question was relevant to the utilities finding the balance between completion of a project and protecting employees. And I must say that the utilities always step up to protect their employees first, and which is rightfully so. It shouldn't be. It should not be driven by the you know, the commercial aspect of getting a job completed. We need to continue to be safe in this industry, and so kudos to the industry for taking care of their employees and the manufacturers.
Well, I think from a utility point of view, I mean, safety is always number one thing on any agenda, you know, when it comes to public utilities. It's and so I think I think a lot of the industries and suppliers are thinking in the same manner. So there's some alignment in what's going on there. So hopefully the, you know, I know travel between US and Canada is still blocked, so hopefully someday that'll ease up in there so we can start going across the border again. But even plane flights right now, I don't know if anyone's flown, but there's very strict protocols when you take a flight.
Okay, John, thanks. We're gonna jump ahead to the last theme here. We're pushing towards 3 o'clock. I know we wanted to try to end this. So Jamie, you were on earlier. You had a question. We're going to talk about, I guess, Measurement Canada is the theme of this the last segment. So Jamie, you had a question, if you're still there.
So I was just wondering, has the Measurement Canada Gas Lab reopened for new product physical testing? So just wondering, you know, if anyone had an update either from the Measurement Canada side or from the CGA side, just where we are at with new product testing at the lab in Ottawa.
Probably turn that over to Jeremy if you wanted to answer that quickly.
Absolutely. So Sajeev or somebody else might also want to add in, but our lab is up and running. Testing is being done on a daily basis. And once we have a test plan in place, absolutely physical testing is ready to go.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Good. Sajeev, are you on today with us from Measurement Canada?
I believe
not with us today. Andrew Cohen has.
Oh, that's true.
Sorry, I was just gonna jump in there and kind of echo what Jeremy was saying there. So much like many of the utilities, we have a lot more requirements now with PPE and scheduling and all this, but our labs are running effectively at full capacity. We're able to enter the building and do our testing.
Awesome. So Pat, do you see Sajeev Pereira out there today? He had a question.
No.
If Sajiv's not there, I don't mind jumping in on his behalf, but I think
Excellent.
we're often at Measurement Canada, we're happy to hear what's working well, but also what's not working well in the approval process. So some of that may be, you know, specific to a certain manufacturer, distributor or something, but as a whole on the process, if there's any comments that anyone would like to make on things that are working well or things that are not working well, we're happy to hear them.
You know what? I'm going to lead right into the next question, which, and I know this, we'll try to keep this one to the volume low, because I know within the industry there's often been a lot of debate about getting product approved. But I know, John, you had your question there was about getting a response. Maybe this would be a good time to have somebody from the industry out at our level in the field to kind of respond to Measurement Canada and their question about asking what they can do to help us. So, John, can you slide into this conversation?
Slide right in, huh?
Well, yeah, gently slide in, John.
I will. What happens at times, let's say one of the utilities will say, hey, I would like to use a particular product, you know, in a PFM application, but you don't have the flow curves for it. And we have the flow curves, I should say, but we don't have we never applied for the Measurement Canada approval. And so sometimes it might be just a product that's been out there, for example, 10 years, and there's an option we added. So it creates an addendum, you could say. And so when we created the new option, we never added the addendum to Measurement Canada. And so utility says, hey, we'd like to use this. Can you get this Measurement Canada approved? And so we started the process back in April, and in the past it's been fairly quick, but recently it's been very quiet. You know, haven't gotten anywhere for quite a while, and then you just wonder, what can we do to escalate this at Measurement Canada? That's where we run into issues there. It's like, I don't, you know, because the utility's calling me, are you getting this done? Are you getting this done? And I said, well, I got the application in, I did the paperwork, you know, money's there, everything's in place. It's just that I can't get things moving. So what's the next step? Would that be kind of a fair assessment there, Bill? You know.
Yeah, it's always tough, John. I know from the vendor side to start this dialogue. I think every vendor, we've all been pushed, nudged, begged. You know, utilities have come to us and say, you know, we want this. We want to adapt it into our regulator fleet or our measurement fleet or whatever the application. But you know, when the utilities look at it, they may see a product that, you know, we're all developing that's safer, has a better return on investment, or whatever the case may be. There's always a utility desire to have the product, and then there's always seems to be a delay maybe on getting products through. So I think your question is I know we have normal protocol. We deal with certain levels at Measurement Canada, and then if you as a vendor want to escalate it, where do you go? Who do you talk to? Without putting anybody on the spot or embarrassing anybody.
Right, and you know, I'm chair of the Supplier Executive Committee right now, and one of the things that have been addressed in the committee meetings that we've had is how do we move things along, and it goes to the point where a supplier, and I'm not speaking of any one supplier, that says, why even bother even messing around with the Canadian market? It's so difficult to push things through. And so, because like in the US, you don't have necessarily the regulatory hurdles. You know, the utilities or the states necessarily will put some mandates in place, and generally speaking, you know, you can get through those fairly quickly. And so that was something that was addressed to the SCOS, is that, hey, if you want new products, you know, we're not willing to maybe invest in some of the areas because of the, you know, it might take 5 years to develop the product, 2 years through the regulatory hurdle, and another 2 years for the utility acceptance. And what happens at that point is the return on investment is so long. I'm just speaking from a practical standpoint, from a business standpoint, looking at the investment required and the return is so delayed. What will happen is some folks will say, well, I'm not even going to bother working with Canada. I'll just stick to other markets. And that's kind of what's going on in the heads of some of the other suppliers.
I guess I could speak a little bit to that before I'm sure someone from MC would like to get on. The CGA has been you know, aware of that issue. Certainly you guys have brought it up. We've been doing a couple of things to try to move it, try to help vendors understand the process a bit better. About a year ago, a document was created. And the purpose of the documents created by the CGA, it's on their website, was to show vendors a path through the approval process and to give them little hints and tricks on how to be more efficient as they went through it. Where information was needed, when it would be required, and so on. Now that document is due for a review because I understand that MC has made some fairly dramatic changes in their process recently, in a sense of when they do their initial review of documentation and so on. Apparently it's earlier in the process than the document that's on our website indicates, but I still think it's applicable, and I'd recommend anyone having a look at it. The second thing that CGA has been doing is they understand it's an issue, and so that they're opening a dialogue with MC to see what kind of things we can do again to deal with this. And that was kind of the next on the list of things to do after the joint work group was completed with the sampling. So it should be coming up fairly soon. Exact dates and times TBA, but it's on the list of, definitely on the list of things to do. Very high on the list. I don't know if there's anybody, David, do you want to add any more to that?
Well, I'm thinking it'd be great to hear from Andrew over at MC.
Yeah, sorry, I try to jump in there, but I try to avoid cutting anyone off there. But to John specifically, like I know we spent quite a bit of time together earlier in the year, kind of going over your specific project and all that. And feel free to email me personally on that one, and maybe we can discuss some of the finer details outside of this specific forum. But it is important on both sides. So there's a back and forth in the approval process where MC is requesting information from the manufacturer, and the manufacturer needs information from us and all this. And it is important to keep us accountable as well. So we try and do that towards the manufacturer to make sure that we're getting everything done quickly. But if you need to make sure that we're also doing that as well. And we do have somebody assigned to your project, I believe. So I think the first avenue would be to talk to the person that's assigned to your project and to ask where your project's at and how that's moving forward. But to escalate it further from there, we do have laboratory managers, we have our engineers, and I know everyone on our side is very sensitive about the time it takes to get an approval as well. We do understand that that's a large hurdle, and it's something that we're dedicating a lot of resources to fixing. And most certainly it will be a tough challenge to get that to a point where manufacturers can quickly gain their approval in a short span of time to introduce new products. But we are willing to work it in new ways and get creative and work with manufacturers towards new solutions. So for you specifically, shoot me an email and we can kind of go through where your project's at and what needs to be done on both our side and your side to get through the project. But to everyone else as well, I mean, we're always happy to communicate. Do reach out to us if you feel like your specific project, if there's something missing. It happens sometimes that there's mix-ups where we think we're waiting something from you and you think you're waiting for something from us. So we are trying our best here, and hopefully we can come to a reasonable solution for you and for everyone in the industry.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot here. It was Bill and I talked about this previous to this meeting here, and it was just one example, not a huge example, but we're willing, as in the supplier community, from the supplier executive committee standpoint, suppliers are willing to help out Measurement Canada with onboarding of employees. If you need to be, if we need to do some virtual training right now on how meters work, how pressure regulators work, whatever you need, Coriolis technology, ultrasonics, I mean, we're here to help. Whatever we can do too, if there's something that we're not doing that we should be doing, please let us know, because we have the tools and we have SMEs within the plant, and we actually someday, if we can travel again, we have training schools at the factories that you're more than welcome to come and be a part of and take deeper dives into the products, because you actually learn quite a bit at the factory training. You learn about maybe their particular product, but the idea is once you learn a diaphragm meter or rotary meter, you learn the fundamentals, and there's a lot of similarities. So if we can help in that way, please let us know.
We would love to take advantage of that. So we're kind of in a state where we have a lot of new staff as we try and expand our capabilities and everything. And the measurement industry, as we know, has a number of different devices with different uses and all these kinds of things. So for somebody to develop the knowledge to the point where they're comfortable in all these different applications, be it like transmission metering down to residential and, measurement using sensors versus, regulation and all this. So absolutely it is helpful. So we'll be in touch with you more specifically on that with your project, but any other manufacturers out there, absolutely provide us training, because sometimes it's even the case that we understand that technology well, or the person assigned directly to the project does, but to learn the specific features that are offered by your device, or understand the value proposition, or to get involved potentially in testing at the manufacturer's facility or any of that, we're more than happy, and that certainly would speed up the process.
Sure, and I'd suggest if there's any topics that you need, get with David McConkey at the CGA, and we can distribute those down through the supplier base and get back to you on training modules. And if you're interested, you can work directly with the suppliers or via the CGA, and we can set up training. I know we're going to do that, this spring, or actually back in June, but things got kind of squashed there because we were doing an extra day at our venue there in Quebec to actually address some of the onboarding and training for Measurement Canada.
So
yeah.
Yeah, John and Andrew, thanks for wading into that discussion, and John putting that question out there. I know we have from our side of the industry here, we've noticed that there has been improvement in response, and like John said, the industry, from the vendor side, we're more than happy to contribute and do what we can. And there's a lot of knowledge base. And one thing is I know from John's company, our company, the other companies on here, we're very risk adverse. We know our products. We've been in this industry a long time, and we're not going to put a product in the field that's going to have repercussions on the industry or our individual companies. And I think that has to be taken into consideration when you're looking for knowledge on and we're asking for an approval of type or a modification acceptance letter. Please embrace us offering our subject matter experts, our engineers, our PhDs. We've got people here that we'll put them in touch with you to help transition to a new product. Because like John said, we got utilities knocking on our door saying, I want it and I want it now, because it's going to make our utility safer and provide a better environment for our customer and a new technology. It's coming at us so fast that we've all got to somehow work together to get it in the field. So with that, I think we're right on 3 or just a little past, and I want to close out by saying thanks for the opportunity to chair this today. I appreciate it. Our team appreciate it. I do look forward to the time when we can be sitting in the lobby right about now, or maybe in another hour or so, having a cocktail and having those armchair chats. And I do miss the camaraderie within the industry, and especially with this group. So there's a lot of people here I talked to today I haven't seen for a while, and look forward to catching up again. So with that, David, I'll say my farewells and turn it over to you to close out.
Well,
and I'm sure Pat wants to say goodbye too. I mean, he wants to give everybody a hug.
You're on mute, Pat. Pat, we can't hear you.
Some people would call that a blessing, actually. But anyway.
I thought you went for your glass of wine,
Yeah, I've been looking for that single malt. No, I guess my only comments would be just to say thank you to all the participants and so on. And the questions were great and the responses were great. And Bill, you did a great job of keeping everybody on track, and also David in the background there pinging me with all sorts of information. That's great. Thank you very much.
And Tyson and Tracy also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess it's over to you, David.
No, that's great. You've stolen part of my rehearsed thunder. No, it's that was a fantastic session. Thank you very much. I've already started some of the follow-up offline. Some of you would have seen some emails, so that's good. And to Bill's point, I mean, you can see the camaraderie in the discussion here. So appreciate that very much. It was a really great discussion. So before we close this Thursday Virtual Roundtable, as I shift back to my my script here, I wanted to remind you all of the entire series of CGA webinars and roundtables. If you found this session valuable, we encourage you to share the overall program with colleagues and invite them to join in future sessions. Recall that all sessions are recorded and may be watched at any time. In fact, we've only got 2 sessions remaining. We're almost at the end, and there they are. We'll be back online in 2 weeks on November the 18th, where we'll be hearing from Allison Coffin at Heritage Gas on an update on what CGA is doing on joint utility trenching. Following that, we'll have our final session on December the 2nd. Yes, December's around the corner. Stations and Components, SNC 101, where we get an overview of station design theory. We kind of touched on that today, actually. You'll find that we will continue to present a number of interesting, informative webinars. In fact, this is our final roundtable, so that part is concluded through the end of the fall in 2020. With that, I'll close today's session again by thanking sincerely Bill and Pat. Thank you both very much. And certainly to Romet Limited for their sponsorship. And we can't forget our team at Can Events, as noted, Tyson and Tracy, who orchestrated in the background today. And thank you to all of you for joining us and sticking with us for the session today. So we'll thank you very much again, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye, everyone.